They came without warning, shadows moving across the quiet farmland under the pale light of dawn. The soft rustle of boots on dry grass, the low growl of dogs straining against their chains, the click of metal collars, all of it sliced through the stillness of morning like a knife. Inside the farmhouse, a young mother cradled her infant son, the rhythm of his breathing the only calm in her world. She thought it was just another day on her lonely stretch of land, but fate had already decided otherwise. By the time she heard the barks echoing through the barnyard, danger had already arrived at her doorstep. And this was no ordinary woman. Years before, she had worn a uniform, served in war zones, and trained some of the most loyal and fearsome military dogs the world had ever seen. She knew their language, their instincts, their weaknesses. She had built her life on trust with them, and now, that same knowledge would decide whether she and her baby would live or die. Right finger if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the strength of a mother's love. Please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Pules. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life. The farm had once been a place of peace. Wide fields of golden wheat swayed in the summer winds, a red barn leaned gently against time, and the sound of chickens in the yard was her morning chorus. For Ellie, who had traded in her combat boots for mud-stained work shoes, this land was not just soil. It was healing. It was the quiet place where she could raise her child away from the chaos of the past. But peace, as she knew too well, was fragile. The men who approached her farm that morning had no mercy in their eyes. They had targeted her because they thought she was defenseless, a young widow with a baby, a patch of land, and no one to stand by her side. They wanted to scare her off, to drive her from the property, because greed and cruelty often walk hand in hand. Their plan was simple: release the dogs, let fear do the rest. But in their arrogance, they had overlooked the one thing that mattered most, the heart of a mother who had already survived war. The first bark shattered the air, deep and feral, followed by the snap of a chain as one of the attack dogs lunged forward. Ellie's instincts awoke before fear had the chance to root itself. She placed her baby gently in the cradle near the window, whispered a prayer under her breath, and stepped outside with nothing in her hands but memory and courage. The dogs charged, their muscles rippling, foam glistening at their mouths. To anyone else, it would have been a nightmare. But to Ellie, it was a language she understood better than words. She planted her feet in the dirt and lowered her gaze just enough to signal dominance without threat. A sharp, guttural command, one she had used countless times in the military, cut through the frenzy. The dogs faltered mid-stride, confusion flashing in their eyes. The men behind them cursed, yanking their leashes to force them forward, but Ellie's voice rose again, steady and unyielding. Her tone was not of fear but of command. The animals hesitated, caught between the orders of strangers and the familiar authority of someone who knew their soul. The moment stretched thin, the kind where seconds feel like hours. Ellie could feel her pulse hammering in her throat, but she did not flinch. She reached into the depths of her memory, calling every lesson drilled into her years ago. Slowly, with careful steps, she extended her hand, palm down, voice low, steady, commanding respect instead of offering fear. One of the dogs whined softly, its ears flicking back, its body language shifting from aggression to uncertainty. Another growl rippled in the air, but it was weaker now, less sure. The men shouted angrily, urging the dogs to attack, but something deeper than their cruelty was happening here. The bond between handler and canine is not easily broken, and even strange dogs could sense the authority of someone who had lived and breathed in their world. One by one, their growls softened, their bodies lowered, their rage dimmed. Ellie stepped closer, her voice a rhythm of command and reassurance, until the impossible happened. The dogs sat. The men stood stunned, their plan unraveling before their eyes. But for Ellie, this was more than just survival, it was a reckoning. She realized that all those years of hardship, all the training, all the scars she carried inside and out, had brought her to this very moment. She wasn't just a farm mom anymore. She was the same soldier who had once led dogs into battle, only now she was fighting for something far more precious, her child's future. But the struggle didn't end there. Threatened and humiliated, the intruders tried to advance, fists clenched, rage twisting their faces. Ellie had no weapon except the loyalty she had just claimed. And that was enough. With one sharp command, the dogs turned, not on her, but on the men who had unleashed them. In a flurry of snarls and snapping teeth, the would-be aggressors scattered, scrambling through fields, chased by the very animals they thought would guarantee their victory. Silence returned slowly to the farm. Dust floated in the early sunlight. The dogs, panting but calm, now circled Ellie with the quiet loyalty of soldiers standing beside their commander. She walked back into the house, her baby still safe, still breathing peacefully as if the world had never shaken. She scooped him into her arms and pressed her lips against his soft hair, whispering that he would never know fear as long as she stood. That day was not just about survival. It was about transformation. Ellie understood something she had tried to forget: once a soldier, always a soldier. Her strength did not end when the uniform came off. It lived in her every choice, her every heartbeat, her every act of courage. And now, it lived in the safe breaths of her son. Life on the farm went on. Seasons changed, wheat grew tall, and the sound of the wind through the fields became her hymn again. But whenever she looked at her child, she knew that the world would always test them. Yet she also knew she was ready. Because strength is not in the weapons we carry, but in the love we defend with everything we are. Right finger if this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Pules. Your support keeps these stories alive, reminding the world that kindness, courage, and second chances still matter. Speech balloon special request. Comment below what you would have done if you were in Ellie's place, because your voice, your story, and your kindness inspire more than you know.